Joe, are we live? Okay. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. Before tonight's meeting, I'd like to welcome everyone to another virtual and in-person meeting. Board members and some staff should be available to you. I'd like to remind the board members of two things. Please mute your microphones while you are not speaking, and please do not use the WebEx chat function. This virtual, excuse me. This virtual meeting will have public comment periods. It will have public comment periods for ordinances, and it will have the traditional public comment period. The traditional public comment period will be limited to 3 minutes. If you plan on to offer public comment this evening, please open the participate list, hover over your name, and click the raise your hand button. By following these steps, town staff will see that you would like to make public comment, and you will be permitted to do so. Town staff is available if you have any issues. Please email Robert Bishop for any technical issues. We appreciate your patience with this format. As with our in-person meetings, our hope is we can create a friendly and respectful atmosphere for the public dialogue. At this time, I'll call the regular meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Romero, would take roll, please.
Mayor Wilson,
Yes, here.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott,
Here.
Trustee Clark, Trustee Clark,
She's not in the meeting room.
Trustee LeKind,
Here.
Trustee LeKind,
Here. Can you not hear me? Hello?
Trustee LeKind,
Can you not hear me?
I
We
can
can
hear
hear you
you.
now.
Thank you.
Okay.
Trustee Romanello,
Here.
Trustee Stevens,
Here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Clark, and Trustee Unruh is noted as absent.
Okay. Before us, we have a consent agenda. Is there any modifications to the agenda? If there are none, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as is.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Romero, will you take roll?
Mayor Wilson,
Yes.
Trustee LeKind,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott,
Yes.
Trustee Stevens,
Yes.
Trustee Romanello.
Yes.
That motion passes 5-0.
Okay, first item on the agenda, ordinance number 15/2020, an ordinance authorizing the plat of 2 lots within Home Place Ranch. Ms. Flynn, or excuse me, Mr. Ricci.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes.
I got an email saying that participants that are not panelists only were able to get a link for the 5 p.m. meeting, and that session has expired, and they do not have a session ID to log in to this meeting.
Okay. Trustee LeKind, we are checking on this.
Okay, yeah, if you look at the attendee list, it appears that there are 6 dialing callers on the phone, and I'm not sure how Trustee Clark is showing up and a couple of other attendees, but she's showing up as, well, now she's a panelist, so she got switched.
Mr. Mayor, I'll update the attendance to include Ms. Clark online.
Me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, Trustee LeKind, it appears that people are being able to join now. Okay, we'll continue. Mr. Ricci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to put up the slideshow very quickly.
Mayor, we're sending out another link also from Madeline's going to send out another link.
It will be the same link that's on the agenda. We're just going to repost it for easier access and less confusion.
All right.
Yeah, it moved.
Next slide, please. So this is a vicinity map to show you the general area of the 2 lots that are being requested by Mr. Barr. If you go to the next slide, you're going to see the Home Place Ranch Phase 1 map there on the satellite. The pink area is in the northeast area there of the pink area is where these 2 lots are requested within the future phases of Home Place Ranch. And so the request here to you is that the petitioner would like to go out of town of Monument Municipal Code land development process for only these 2 lots. The issue that came up is that these lots are within a sketch plan area, which you're going to see on the next slide. Next slide after that. There you go. Within the orange sections A and B of the sketch plan. Because these lots were part of the PD sketch plan, the town could not administratively approve this because it violated a number of ordinances. However, the town staff do not have an issue with platting these 2 lots with the recommended changes of requiring these lots to be conformed in the future when Home Place Ranch develops sections A and B. So what happened is the town manager denied the request to administratively approve these 2 lots because, again, town ordinances don't permit it. He's requested 2 plots for the purpose of building his own personal residence. Interestingly, these lots coincide with existing residences on the land now. and he seeks to replace those 2 lots until it's just sitting on these 2 lots within the 109-acre section until the area is developed. The Board of Trustees may grant an exception. And the next slide after that is the outline of the 2 lots. Within the 109 acres. And Mr. Barr is here with his family if anyone has any questions related to his request.
Can you go back to the previous slide? Actually, 2 slides back. So this slide is just the area it's in,
So the
because it doesn't look like anything like the 2 lots.
that this is the area in which it's in. The colored sections here are of the future Home Place Ranch development phases. The orange section is the 109 acres within which the 2 lots are being platted. The 2 lots actually sit within, on that map, sections A and B in the top right-hand corner, following an existing roadway that currently exists on the property.
And is this out of ordinance because they've already submitted a plat?
Because they've already submitted a sketch plan.
That's the only thing that's out of ordinance.
Yes, I mean, because the sketch plan outlines things like number of houses per acre, that all areas will be developed, you know. So essentially what's being requested here is putting 2 lots in an area that all of them should be plotted at the same time. Section A and section B there would all be plotted at the same time, and he's requesting to be able to plot these 2 lots independent of the sketch plan. That's the major issue here.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Ricci before we go to the applicant?
Yeah, I have some questions. You said the current sketch plan, how many lots or how many houses does it allow for in the area for A and B? How much does the sketch plan require or is set for that area?
Ms. Flynn, do you have that answer?
I believe, is it 200 homes in that area? I believe it's 200 homes total that will eventually be plotted in that area. But right now, Mr. Barr would like 2 lots plotted right now to use for his personal residence, because it could take 10 years from now until that part of the sketch plan is given a site plan and builders for that area.
So
That
how
part
does-
is not done right now. In the future, we asked Mr. Barr if this does get passed, that you would have to be in accordance. The house needs to face a correct direction where the future homes will be faced. The architecture would have to be similar to what the architecture would be for the future homes as well. He just doesn't want to wait 10 years to build his 2 personal residence there. Eventually there will be 200 homes there, but that could be 10 years from now. And he wants to go out of order and build his personal residence now rather than in 10 years.
And in answer to part of the question there, A and B, A is 12.5 acres, B is about 31 acres, and each one are set up for about 1 to 2 dwelling units an acre on those. So a number of more homes are going to go on there, as many as 60 and as few as 30 in section B, and as many as 24 and as few as 12 in section A. So these are much larger lots than will eventually be placed in those areas.
I have a question.
So this is actually, so Their request is actually bringing down the density of the area.
I believe the hope would be to conform the lots and the homes to the sketch plan in the future. So the way that the request has been submitted by town staff is to allow the plotting of these two lots and then do line adjustments and the like when those other homes are plotted. Those other lots are plotted. But it may actually bring them down.
Trustee LeKind?
Yeah, so it's a singular ordinance that we would be going against that's in place today by redoing this or allowing for this.
You broke up a little there. Can you repeat that?
Is this a singular ordinance that we would be going against if we allowed these two plots to be joined?
Yes,
Okay.
please, Ms. Flynn.
It'll be going against many ordinances. In the memo that was written, they're skipping the ordinance that was presented in the memo, goes straight to final plat, so they could build their two private residents on there rather than going through the planning process that's usually done for a large site as for this project for Home Place Ranch. Usually you receive a site plan to review with 200 homes on it and their setbacks and whatnot, how it's going to be set up. And that will happen in the future. But right now he's asking to build two personal residents. That's going to be part of that. So we're skipping many ordinances to get to what he would like to do right now. But those ordinances will be addressed when they do submit the final site plan for the rest of the homes that are going to be built on that piece of land.
Okay, and historically, if anybody knows, how many times has the town of Monument gone against their ordinances for this kind of request?
I do not have that answer. I don't know if this has ever been done before. This was the first time that Larry Manning and I have been asked to do this.
So we would be setting precedent that we would go against our ordinances to accommodate this request. And it's possible that we could get requests such as this in the future.
Correct.
Ms. Flynn, how many times have you seen this type of request?
I've never seen it before. So
Mr. Foreman?
No, sir, I haven't seen it before either.
So it's not a huge concern that this is going to come up very often?
No, I don't think so. You know, like I think I discussed with you earlier, I've been doing this well over 30 years and haven't seen it, anything like this come up before. And I think Mr. Ritchie explained the only reason that I couldn't approve it administratively is the ordinance doesn't allow me to do that.
Okay.
I have a question. In the orange area, I see that it covers up some of the roads there. Will this change in any way affect the roads that are there? Will they be removed or overridden or something? I don't know what the right terminology, but they would that affect the roadways?
If I may answer that, no, sir, this would not. In fact, the way that the draft ordinance from the town staff is written, this would be the only exception to the sketch plan permitted is the plotting of these two lots. And as this area is further developed, they will have to be conformed to the sketch plan when the area is built out. And so the lot lines maybe have to be adjusted so that roads can go in. The sketch plan will have to be followed to the letter, with the exception of the fact that these two houses will be there already.
Okay. Are there any? Go.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
I
like
think member LeKind had another question. He cut out and didn't get his question completely in.
Trustee LeKind?
Yeah, I just had asked if Larry Manning could respond to if he had seen this before in his time with the town.
And I don't understand. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, this is, in my experience, highly unusual. And especially in a planned development zone. where the public as well as the utility providers are counting on a certain kind of development to go into certain areas. That's the purpose of the sketch plan. And what it does is it doesn't guarantee that this is ever going to be what it's planned to be. I certainly understand the applicant's desires. I think there's a much better way to go about it, but it would require a modification of the sketch plan, which would then likely diminish their opportunity to reinstill that sketch plan at a later date. So yes, I see this as highly unusual. Thank you.
Okay. At this time, we'll hear from, does the applicant have a presentation or just comments?
No presentation, just comments. Thank you. So the entire area
Your
you
name,
see
sir?
on the map.
For
my
the
name's
people.
Brian Barr.
Okay, for the
and
people listening.
My wife Heather and our 3 youngest daughters.
Okay.
The entire area you see on the map is 427 acres. And as many of you may recall, you've approved 300 homes on the southernmost part of the site, and that development is moving forward. We anticipate that will take 5 years to develop and sell out. The next phase of development would be the northwest corner of the site, because that's where utilities will be available once they are extended through Jackson Creek's development. We've contributed, and I say we, not my family, but the developer of the 427 acres contributed toward bringing the sanitation under I-25 and Jackson Creek in anticipation that at some point it will serve that northwest quadrant of the 427 acres. This 109 acres that's shown in orange is after the northwest development, so at least we believe 10 years, maybe 15 years from being viable to develop due to the unavailability of sanitation. So when I met with staff and we discussed the idea of going in and amending the sketch plan in order to allow my family to build on this, I didn't like that idea from the point of view that the intention isn't to increase the...
I'm sorry, we're having trouble hearing you. You're very faint.
I'm sorry, our intention was not to decrease the permitted density as approved by Monument 13, 14 years ago. You know, Deborah? It was 2007?
2006?
2006, perhaps?
Yeah.
So 14 years ago. So our intention was not to decrease the density, but to be able to enjoy the property while we await the utilities being close by. Last year, there were 2 homes on the 109 acres. Last year, one of the homes that posed a hazard was demolished. We pulled permits, mitigated the environmental concerns, and demolished that home. So the point of the 2 lots is to be able to replace the home that was demolished and then to have a lot that we would build on for my family as well. And to enjoy this beautiful land and enjoy living in Monument until such time as we can submit a full development plan and go through the town process of designing those roads that are within the 109 acres and moving forward with additional development at that point. The question came up about how this will affect the roads. Glen Eagle Drive is going to be extended to Higbee Road. Initially, as part of the southern development of the 300 lots, it will be a temporary extension, I believe, with gravel, if I recall. And then when the northwest quadrant gets developed, it will be a fully developed street. And so the 109 acres was designed actually to not impact the Glen Eagle Drive. The Glen Eagle Drive's outside of the 109 acres.
Okay. This is a public hearing item, so I will now open the public hearing part to anyone who would like to speak for or against this item. I'll start with our online Okay. Is there anybody from the public that would like to comment on this item? Okay.
Yeah, hello, my name is Hank Bond. I live at 17588 Colonial Park Drive. That is the property in Higbee Estates that is immediately to the east of the consideration and very close to the house that was recently demolished. I think it's that blue house. And I just wanted to speak on behalf of my family that we are before this moving forward. And we see this as a positive for the way the property is being used right now. We just maintain the same appeal and the same use. And so we're for that.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Ms. Flynn, was there anyone else out there? Okay. Mr. Anderson, do we have anybody online? Okay. Well, those of you participating online, please mute your microphones. Okay, seeing no other public comments. Ms. Ohms, please mute your setting. Thank you. Seeing no other public comments, I'll close the public hearing portion of this ordinance and bring it back to the board for further discussion or comment or a motion. Any board members have additional comments or questions?
I do have a question for Mr. Ritchie. So this is so unusual, what we're doing here, but there's absolutely no legal ramifications whatsoever to the town of Monument if this is passed.
No, I don't believe so. The reality is you may amend and grant exceptions by ordinance to any of the ordinances you've already made. This is a very unique situation. It's unusual that someone would say, hey, this is going to be developed someday in the future, but I'd just like to live on it for the next 10 or 15 years. I don't see this as setting much of a precedence, particularly considering Monument's current build-out state.
Other questions from the board?
I think it speaks very highly of the fact that a developer would want to live on the property or the development that he's about to build in. So and plus I think we're lowering the density. So I think it's a good thing personally.
Trustee LaKine, do you have any comments?
No, my questions were answered. I guess the only comment I would, or question I would have to this is what guarantees do we have that the development will actually be built? It sounds like it's been dragging out for a decade, and we're going to modify or make an exception to an ordinance to allow the builder or the developer to live on the land, which I'm fine with. But at what point do we? What's the guarantee that the rest of the development is going to take place? Is it going to take 10 years for the development to start or finish?
Ms. Flynn, would you like to address that question? And can you also clarify the process of what we have currently planned and how it's gotten to today?
Well, currently, what Mr. Barr mentioned in the sketch plan that Andy had on the screen earlier with the green, with the orange area, the part to the south, that was approved, I believe, 6 to 7 months ago for phase one of, that's considered phase one of Home Place Ranch. So usually it's 300 homes and it's approved, but it could take 4 to 5 years for build out. We never know what the recession or economy, how it's going to be for any builder when they build, for any project here. So it could take 3 to 4 years for build out, or it could take longer. We don't know for sure how fast those homes are going to be sold. And then after the first phase was approved by the board, the second phase needs to come to the board as well, which is the northwest area, and that will be coming to the board next when they submit it. They have not yet submitted that. So that could take another 5 years for build out as well, and then 10 years total for the area that Mr. Barr would like to put his 2 homes. It could take 10 years total from now to build that part out. So we don't know how long build out is going to take for any project. So we give an estimate of, for this instance, since there's 3 phases, 10 years to finish his part of the project of Home Place Ranch.
So Trustee LeKind, it sounds like they are moving forward with development of this area. It's just the area in question is not until the final phase.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, if I could also chime in on that. I think the main issue here with the limitation to development of this particular parcel, as has been discussed by Mr. Barr, is the fact that utilities are not yet extended to that area, and they won't be until the other sections are finished. That's
Okay.
the major limitation on why it's taking so long to develop this particular section.
Okay. Trustee LeKind, does that answer your questions?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. Trustee Clark, do you have any questions or comments?
I think that the personal desire to build your own residence on your own land should be honored.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to briefly revisit Mr. Manning's comment on guarantee. Can you elaborate on how this would possibly change future planning of this area, say of phase 3?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. I think the main concern is that the process of plan development, this one being a residential sketch plan, assuring presumably the residents around and the community that does the service, such as utilities and police officers, etc., can count on at some point this is going to come to fruition. And the proper way in my mind is to simply change the sketch plan to accommodate what he wants to do now. And when he wants to change that back to what it is now, he comes and asks again to change it back. That way we have a sketch plan that accommodates what he wants to do. It's in place and approved. I'm sure that the caution to himself, Mr. Barr, is that down the road, when he comes back to reinstill the density that he has now, there may be opposition. I understand that as well. But in my mind, the best way to do this for the town is to have him revise the sketch plan to accommodate what he wants on that particular 100+ acres. And when he wants to do something different in the future, come back in and ask the town to do so. Does that help, sir?
Yes. Mr. Barr, what was your rebuttal to that? Why did you not go that direction?
Well, I think there's 2 statements there that he makes. One, we want to make sure it gets developed out as it's planned because we have infrastructure, police, fire department that's serving this land, and so we want to make sure we get the density. But if he wants to use the lower density of only 2 lots, then he should go through the whole sketch plan. So if we have to go through the whole sketch plan, it takes several months to go through that. It's a very lengthy process. And when I met with some of the staff, and Larry was I think furloughed at that time, if I recall, they suggested that just platting the 2 lots may be the easiest way. After we submitted the plat, it came to light that wasn't possible to approve administratively under the town's code and ordinances. So That is why I've appealed for this variance. The
Okay.
idea of taking extra time to build the personal residence, to change the sketch plan, and then to come back later and to do the same thing, it seemed pointless, I guess, to me, whereas the neighbors still will have plenty of chance to give input on design, layout, lot sizes when we do a development plan in 10 years.
Okay. Mr. Foreman, do you want to elaborate or add to that?
Yeah, I agree. We met with staff and met with Andrew, and this was really the quickest route for the developer and the property owner to be able to build a home there. But also, I don't think the town's not losing any ability to control the development in the future.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I may note, sections 2, 3, and 4 of the draft ordinance put in the Board of Trustees packet go to the limitations here that these are the only exceptions being made to this, and that when this area is developed, it will have to comply. Per the ordinance, this section of land has to comply with the sketch plan as submitted or resubmitted later, if that's what they so choose to do.
Okay.
So if he resubmits it later, you'll get another opportunity to either
address
approve or deny it.
Okay. If there are no other questions from the board or comments, I will look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 15, 2020, and ordinance authorizing platting 2 lots within a home place ranch sketch plan areas A and B.
Second.
We have motion and second. Mr. Romero.
Trustee LeKind,
Yes.
Trustee Stevens,
Yes.
Trustee Clark,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson,
Yes.
Trustee Romanello.
Yes.
The motion passes.
That motion passes 6-0. Next item on the agenda, ordinance 5B, ordinance number 12-202-2020. An ordinance approving the rezone and sketch plan development for Falcon Commerce Center. Ms. Flynn.
Just waiting for Drew to put it up on the screen.
Okay.
So we're ordinance 16, 2020, Falcon Commerce Center rezone and sketch PD plan. The project location is situated south of Baptist Road, west of I-25 and north of U.S. Air Force Academy. North is Baptist Road and future Santa Fe Park. East is I-25, west is Pioneer Sand Company, and south is the U.S. Air Force Academy. It's 214 acres in size. The zone change. It's rezoned from planned industrial park PIP to planned development PD due to section 17.40.050 of the municipal code, which states that any property subject to previously approved PD that has not been platted and for which a certificate of occupancy has not been issued shall be rezoned to planned development. The property was originally part of the larger Forest Lakes Business Center additions number 1, 2, and 3, which was annexed into the town in 1989. The PIP zoning is from 1989 and is no longer a recognized zoning in the town monument. Regency Park PID and PCD zones combined are the nearest zoning standards. These zones will allow industrial, commercial, office, civic, recreational, and institutional uses. The only change in the addition is multifamily residential to enhance the mix of uses on the proposed site. Oh, sorry. I can just go on if that's okay. And then we'll put the
Please
Slides up.
go
Okay.
ahead and we'll catch up with the slides
Okay.
momentarily.
The sketch PD plan is a conceptual plan. It indicates the proposed uses and densities of the property, including open space, parks, trails, major plan roadways, and utility services. Falcon Commerce Center sketch PD plan proposed uses are the mix of commercial, office, industrial, distribution, institutional, civic, and multifamily residential use. Open space and internal trails and sidewalk connection to the Santa Fe Trail as well. The Area D on the sketch plan will be either non-residential or residential, not a combination of both. Area C, which is 68.54 acres, is the largest area on the site, which will have a maximum square footage of 550 square feet, which may include civic, industrial, institutional, medical, office, or warehouse distribution. The access points are primary off Baptist Road via Terrazzo Drive. Terrazzo Drive will extend south and will function as the collector road. The road design will be proposed at the final PD site plan submittal. The secondary access is west onto Woodcarver Road via Squadron Drive. And there will be a second bridge over Jackson Creek, which is 2 points of access to the south parcel of Area D, which is the potential multifamily residential use. Traffic concerns. A traffic signal at Baptist Road, Terrazzo Drive will be warranted at some point during the development and this and/or other projects in the area. When it comes time to install this signal, the surrounding businesses will contribute to financing the signal with CDOT. Trails and open space. Pedestrian circulation will be available via sidewalks along the internal road network and by trail connections to the Santa Fe Trail. This will be proposed at the preliminary or final PD site plan submittal. There will be 24.27 acres of open space, which will include Jackson Creek drainage, floodplain, and Preble's Meadow jumping mouse habitat area. And then there is a list of referrals who reviewed and commented on this project. And at the Planning Commission hearing on July 22nd, no one from the public spoke for or against this project, and the Planning Commission vote was 4-1 to recommend approval. The Planning Commission recommended approval of Ordinance 16-2020 Falcon Commerce Center rezone and sketch PD plan based on the findings that their proposal complies with all standards and criteria for approval. And I can go back to the sketch plan so you can see it better as well.
What was the reason behind the person voting against?
They didn't like the uses and the building heights, which was already approved back in 1989 with the ordinance back for that. And there was no other reason that I believe was the building height, because they kept the building height of 100 feet max, which may or may not ever be used, but they wanted to keep it just in case to keep their options open. And the uses are the same uses that were zoned with PIP. The only thing that was added was the multifamily residential within D, area D. And that might be multifamily residential as is something they're looking at, but it could be another use. But right now they're looking at multifamily residential in that area.
Okay. And then the businesses contributing to the traffic signal,
Yes.
is that by a PID, or how are these guys just going to contribute?
That was with CDOT, with their comments. They asked about that. How would it be financed? And the business owners and the developers, currently the developers have been talked to and asked about that, and they will contribute with installing the signal when it's warranted.
Okay.
And then Andrea Barlow is here too as well to present her presentation.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the board before we have the applicant? Okay. Mr. Anderson, will you bring up her presentation?
I'm sorry, is there any audio? We don't hear anything out here.
Oh, I beg your pardon. I hadn't put the microphone on. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Please start over.
Yeah, sorry. I really just gone over the site location, which is already covered by Debbie. I'm just talking about the existing zoning. It was annexed in 1989, and at that time, it was zoned for the PIP with a long list of uses, which I'll come on to. And the ordinance also stated that to the extent that the provisions of this ordinance are in conflict with the monument zoning ordinance as amended, the provisions of this ordinance shall control. So in the context of the changes that which I'm going to discuss, the ordinance is still the controlling zoning for this property. That allowed a maximum height of 100 feet, and there was also provision for a 20-foot private open space easement adjacent to Santa Fe Trail. Let's take a little while to move on. Thank you. So the PIP zoning, as was mentioned, is no longer a recognized zoning in the town, and as a result, it was shown as PID on the zoning map, and the municipal code requires any previously approved PD zoning to be rezoned. So that's why we're here today. Existing zoning and permitted uses. This is a long list. I'm not going to read through them if you can even see it, but it's a long list of ranging from industrial uses, commercial uses, civic uses, and warehousing, manufacturing, and so on. So a wide range of uses already permitted on the site, with a couple of conditional uses and accessory uses allowed, as well as some temporary sales and construction office uses. Next slide. Sorry. So the Santa Fe Trail, I just want to talk a little bit about that. That required the developer to provide a 30-foot easement for the Santa Fe Trail and to construct the trail to the town standards. What actually transpired is, because it's a county trail, a 50-foot strip of land was actually dedicated and deeded to the county, and the county constructed the trail to their standards. This included the required 30-foot trail easement and the 20-foot private open space easement that I referred to previously. And in that agreement, in the annexation agreement, it indicated, a bit strangely worded, but the developer shall not grant permission for more than 3 vehicular crossings of said trail within the land. We've already got one crossing there. There's a gravel trail that goes through the property currently and goes over the creek and provides access to the wastewater treatment facility. So onto the sketch plan, I'll just describe it broadly. There are 4 different use areas, areas A, B, C, and D. And then we have area E, which is our centralized detention facility. That is for the northern section of the property, north of the creek. With area D, there will be a need to provide some detention for that area as well, dependent on what the development is. And there is also the central area, the green area, which we are proposing to keep as open space to protect the floodplain, the mouse habitat, and also the creek area generally. The principal access to the site is off existing Terrazzo Drive. That's the short section of road that's currently built adjacent to Pilot. We'll be extending that south all the way to the southern section of the site. There will be a secondary access off a road that we are calling Squadron Drive that will go west and connect to Woodcarver. There is a short section of Woodcarver for the connection that is currently private, and then the remainder is currently county right-of-way. There is a proposed right-in, right-out to Baptist Road from the commercial area, and as mentioned by Debbie, that we're proposing to add an additional bridge adjacent to the existing bridge over the creek to ensure that the area to the south has 2 points of access. That has been discussed in very broad terms with the fire chief, Trudy, and he was generally okay with that, obviously needing to see the details when we get to that phase of the development, which is probably several years away, but that the general principle of a 2-bridge approach was considered acceptable. Next slide is a summary of the land uses. I'm not going to go into that in detail, but we are proposing maximum square footage and a approximate floor area ratio for each of those areas, which somewhat limits the amount of floor space that we will be able to have in those areas. And that's based on our assessment of what we think could go there. And the majority of that is single level buildings, maybe some 2-3 story uses such as hotels and so on. But in that assessment, we're not assuming any very large buildings, very tall buildings. And similarly with the density on the south side, that assumes that that entire area could potentially be developed for multifamily. It is an either or situation there. We're not going to try and mix in that area the multifamily with the non-residential uses. Next slide. So our proposed zoning is exactly the same as our existing zoning, except we're adding multifamily residential to the mix. We thought as we are here having to rezone anyway, we would broaden our range of uses and our opportunities on the site to provide a greater mix, and I'll talk a little bit more about why we think multifamily works here. Next slide. We've got internal connections to the Santa Fe Trail proposed on the sketch plan, and we're going to retain that existing access to the wastewater treatment facility and add one new crossing of the Santa Fe Trail, which is the Squadron Drive I mentioned before, and that will give us 2 points of access, one less than we're actually allowed to have. And then we're keeping the maximum building heights, as was mentioned, and the setbacks are pretty much consistent with what the existing zoning allows. So the next slide, I'm just going to talk briefly about the multifamily residential area in the yellow, Area D, which is on the south side of the site. That's separated from the rest of the property by Jackson Creek and the mouse habitat area floodplain. So we feel that that physical and visual detachment has a twofold effect. It can makes it not very marketable for non-residential uses, and it also provides quite a kind of secluded environment that would work well for residential. And the mix of residential and non-residential together on the same site provides a live-work environment, which is encouraged by the comprehensive plan. So that's some reasons why we felt that the multifamily on the south side could work. The comprehensive plan, we've got an area that shows a commercial center in the red on the north end of the site, and then the rest of it is pretty much light industrial uses, small office contractors and smaller businesses, research development, require distributions of goods, so we have those distribution facilities in there. And then the parks and recreation and trails area is primarily through the Jackson Creek corridor, and we are providing trail connections from within the site to Santa Fe Trail. And next slide, just some general policies which support what we are doing, moving away from single-use development to mixed uses, capitalizing on the 3 I-25 interchanges for destination sales tax producing uses, which will be consistent with our proposal to have commercial on that north end, and then other uses being encouraged that are highway oriented, and also promoting Monument as a business, shopping, service, employment and activity hub for the region, which all these uses that we're proposing will help with that. Next slide, please. Thanks. Sketch plan review criteria, again, I'm not going to go through them in details, and these are just summaries, but we're providing the open space, trail connections, will have a positive fiscal impact. We're providing a variety of development on the site, including housing and a mix of land uses, appropriate relationships both internally and with adequate buffer areas to the surrounding. We actually are proposing a wider buffer on the south end to the Trail and Air Force Academy. And then utility services are available, and we're going to be creating some potentially some attainable housing, I'd rather say, than affordable housing per se. And then we've taken into account the major environmental characteristics, which is primarily the creek area on this site. We believe it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. Next slide, and here's my summary. Zoning allows majority of the uses we're proposing. We are required to rezone. We're using the proposed uses and standards are consistent. We're only adding multifamily residential, which we believe is compatible and provides a more sustainable mix of uses and conforms to the comprehensive land use designations and policies in general terms and satisfies the sketch PD site plan review criteria. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Are there any questions for Ms. Barlow at this time? Okay, this is a public hearing item, so I will open it up to the public for anyone who would like to speak for or against this ordinance. We have no one in person. Mr. Anderson, do we have anyone online? Okay. We will bring it. I will not close. We will give it a few more minutes on the public hearing being open, but I will take any further question or comment from the board.
I think the use for Area D makes sense.
D being the residential, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And I do have my client and our team, our traffic consultant and engineer on the line as well, if anybody has any questions for them.
Okay. Still no public comment, Mr. Anderson? Okay. At this time, we will close the public hearing portion of this ordinance, and we will bring it back for discussion or motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 16-2020, an ordinance approving the rezone and sketch plan development plan for Falcon Commerce Center.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Romero?
Trustee Stevens,
Yes.
Trustee LeKind, Trustee Romanello,
Yes.
Trustee Clark, Trustee Clark,
Trustee Clark, you went on and off mute real quick.
Let me try that one.
Trustee Clark, how do you vote?
Will you move on and then circle back to Trustee Clark?
Sure. Mayor Pro Tem Elliott,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson,
Yes.
Trustee Clark.
We will.
Hello?
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, my vote is yes.
Thank you. That motion passes 6-0. Item number 5C, ordinance number 17-2020, an ordinance approving the rezone preliminary final plan development site for ABC Landscaping. Ms. Flynn?
I'm just going to wait until Drew puts it up. And the applicants are here. They're on their way inside.
Okay.
Sorry, Drew. It said it's ordinance 17-2020, ABC Landscaping, Warehouse and Outdoor Storage, Rezone and Preliminary Final PD Site Plan. This is the vicinity map. Next is the project location. The site is located west of I-25, about a half-mile north of State Highway 105 and Beacon Light Road. The development would access directly off Beacon Light Road, and it's 5 acres in size. And Wolf Business Court is to the south. Like I said, it's a rezone from planned commercial development to planned development and this is due to section 1740.050 of the municipal code. The site indicates 5,120 square foot warehouse shop. The proposed site will include fenced outdoor storage yard, required parking, and landscaping. A chain link fence is proposed for security reasons. Mature trees will be screened from the shop on all sides inside the fence. A wall light on the exterior of the proposed warehouse shop. Water, sewer, electricity, and gas are adjacent to Beacon Light Road, and small drainage swales running primary north to the south, which will remain as is. Next slide. And these are renderings of the warehouse shop, which is similar to Red Line Pipeline that you saw at last Planning Commission. Next. ABC Landscaping. They're a locally owned, operated landscaping business for over 30 years. They create custom landscapes for their clients, ranging from a patio of a quaint little sitting area to an amazing custom design that can accommodate large events. And they work 10 hours a day, 4 to 5 days a week. Total trips are 20 per day. Landscaping crew is 4 to 6 employees. They load up their vehicle in the morning with materials and equipment, and then crew returns around 5 p.m. each day to unload. Business owner and part-time assistant work at the shop during the day. Clients and customers generally do not come to the shop because it's not a retail business. And the next slides are pictures of their work. And this is a list of referrals reviewed and commented on the project. Oops. The Planning Commission met on July 22nd, 2020. No one from the public spoke for or against the project. However, we did have a resident that emailed the list of questions that you see in front of you regarding the proposed project. Some of those questions are, does ABC intend to have a wall built around the property or just see-through fence? Does ABC plan on storing landscape materials? Will the property be used to store vehicles like boom trucks, trailers, vans, etc.? And then he asked if the location on the property would be towards I-25 or Beacon Light Road, and it's mainly in the center of the property. And he asked about access. Will the facility have access from the existing entrance that is south to the intended property? And he also asked if there would be a turn lane on Beacon Light Road. Granted that this project will only have 20 trips a day, there is no need for a turn lane for 20 trips a day. And the Planning Commission voted 5-0 to recommend approval. Sorry, I forgot to hit this buttons up there. The Planning Commission recommends approval of Ordinance 17/2020 ABC Landscaping Warehouse Outdoor Storage Rezone and Preliminary Final PD Site Plan based on the findings that the proposal complies with all standards and criteria for approval. And the applicants are here who've owned the business for 30 years to answer any questions.
The applicants do not have a presentation?
No, they don't.
Okay. Questions from the board? Okay. Hearing none, this is a public hearing item. Do we have anyone who would like to speak for or against this item? Mr. Anderson online? Okay. Ms. Flynn, do we have anybody in? Okay. With that said, we'll bring it back to the board for a further discussion, or excuse me. At this time, we'll close the public hearing portion and we'll bring it back to the board for further discussion or an approval or a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 17/2020, an ordinance approving the rezone and preliminary final plan development site plan for ABC Landscaping Warehouse Outdoor Storage.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Romero?
Trustee Romanello,
Yes.
Trustee Stevens,
Yes.
Trustee Clark,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson,
Yes.
Trustee LeKind.
Yes.
That motion passes 6-0. Moving on to item 5D, and ordinance number 18, 2020, and ordinance amending Monument Municipal Code. Ms. Romero.
Thank you. Mayor, Board of Trustees, tonight I bring you a recommendation regarding our special event application and ordinances. It has come to staff's attention that under current Monument Municipal Code language, it is possible to host a concert using Limbaugh Park band shell without a special event permit if the event organizer anticipates fewer than 100 people. Even though the anticipated attendance may be under 100 people, it is highly probable that any public concert may attract the attention of 100 or more. Due to this potential safety concern with hosting concerts that may draw large crowds, along with the associated damage that may occur to park facilities, staff feels it is in the best interest of the citizens to require an approved special event permit in order to use the band shell at Limbaugh Park. Upon discussion, ordinance number 1820-20 amends the Monument Municipal Code language to require an approved special event permit to use the band shell at Limbaugh Park. This will afford staff an opportunity to review the event organizer's plans and offer suggestions on ways to mitigate potential public safety concerns and ensure facilities are safeguarded. The staff recommendation tonight, staff would recommend a motion to approve ordinance number 18-2020 to help us update this situation and issue that has come to our attention. Thank you.
What are you considering use of the band shell?
So if they were having a concert at the band shell, that's normally what we do. What the issue has been in the past, especially this year, we have citizens that want to use the band shell to have a concert. And currently it says if they have less than 100, they don't have to get a permit. If they don't have to get a permit, then they don't have to notify Public Works. They don't have to notify the fire department. They don't have to notify the police department. So you could have a concert with 100 people out there and no one in the town would be notified.
Okay, so is it really use of the band shell or use of the band shell for concerts?
It would be use of the band shell in general. I don't know what other events take place on there, but
I don't know what other events you would have when you had 100 people. I haven't seen any in the town of Monument since I've been here that had 100 people or less or more that wasn't a concert.
Right, but this is for under 100 people, correct?
Right. So if it was even more than 50, I haven't seen anything that wasn't a concert.
So, Mr. Mayor, let me clarify that. Our special event application right now only requires an application if you're going to exceed that capacity on your event.
Right. This requires it for all events.
Correct. So if you're
the band shell.
Correct.
Right.
Now, say your event's only going to have 20 people and you would like to reserve the band shell is not reservable. Therefore, we can't reserve it. This then would allow you to reserve the band shell with not having a capacity or not having a number of attendees. So right now, the issue arose with obviously all of the mandates with events, and some of our events are obviously lower than 100, but we're unable to secure those rentals or reservations for the band shell because they don't meet the capacity level. So it's basically just allowing us more, I don't know what the word is. It's allowing us to monitor the band shell. So somebody put on an event and there wasn't electricity available because it didn't require an application. Therefore, it didn't go through our process with Public Works, PD, like Mike mentioned, and the proper channels to make sure that was secured for the event holder. So we met.
So now are we talking about electricity or the band shell?
It's still the band shell.
So
but in order
to use the band shell, if say for concerts, That's what we specifically looked at this for.
Mhm.
If you're going to have a concert there, we had a concert last week, and they hadn't notified anybody, didn't get a special event permit, and we had turned the electricity off to that area now. We turned the electricity off the area unless you call us and get a special event permit. We're not going to turn the electricity back on. They had their event, and they had to call me literally 30 minutes before the event, explain to me what the event was for, and I had to instruct Tom to go out there and turn the electricity on. They didn't have a special event permit. And so Tom had to call somebody right before 5 o'clock and turn the electricity on. And so to prevent that in the future, we'd like to have a special event permit for any use of the band shell. So
Okay.
if anybody needs electricity or anything like that, then we need to be able to review that, look at that, and have the police department know, have the fire department know, have our public works department know that we either need to clean up trash prior to it. We had an event this year to where we didn't clean up trash prior to an event that didn't have a special event permit, and the trash overflowed during the event.
That makes sense. I think I'm more concerned with the restrictions on the lighter end. Does a woman, a club of 10 people that want to sit up there and have lunch need a special event permit? They're not using
I don't think
electricity.
I don't think we're going to go to that level.
And that's what I'm asking.
If somebody
Where is that
goes
level?
up there and they don't need electricity and they want to have lunch up there, we're not going to have anybody out there enforcing that. It's just going to be, if somebody needs to be, I mean, the main use for this is going to be if somebody needs to have a concert up there and they need electricity, then we need to.
So that's why I was asking if it was the band shell or electricity.
Well, I think it's both. I think it's, if you're going to use the band shell. I see your point. I mean, but we're not going to be onerous on this. I mean, we're not going to say, Miss Smith's going to go out there and have a birthday party with 20 people out there. We're not going to go out there and enforce that. But if she needs electricity on that band shell to be able to have a band there, then we would have her have a special event permit.
Questions from the board for Ms. Romero or Mike?
How much are special event permits?
So nonprofits, that fee is waived. We don't charge nonprofits, which majority of our events are nonprofits. There's $100 application fee, and then it goes basically per department. Obviously, whatever stipulations or guidelines they fall under, there's charges that are accrued. Public Works, if they require barricades, things like that, there's a cost. Police, if there's liquor involved and 2 officers, we charge them for that officer's time. So there's a whole rate sheet, and I'm happy to email you that special event application so you guys can review that as well.
I have a question. How will the public be notified of this ordinance?
Mr. LeKind, as all of our ordinances, they will be published in the paper for 30 days and will follow all guidelines with publication. And I do stay in direct communication with all of our past event holders, especially now with all of the mandates. I've worked hard to support them during this difficult time, but I do have a good contact information for all of them where I would send them the information once it's approved past those 30 days. Fortunately, right now, the time frame allows us, we're kind of winding down for what special events we did have at Limbaugh Park. So, moving forward, I communicate with them any new stipulations and things like that, but I would definitely make them aware. Again, this would be for all previous special event applicants, but I would work with Madeline and post it on our website, social media, and any other outlet.
Trustee Stevens?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just, so I guess the primary reason for this is to turn on electricity and maintain. I get it when it gets too large, but if it's a small, say, political gathering and people want to just meet in a public area and discuss something. I don't know. I have to think about, because if they don't, I understand the case. If you need electricity, if you need special services of any type, then that would require, you know, paperwork and, you know, everything to get turned on in facilities. But if you're talking serving liquor, you're talking, you know, all kinds of other activities, then that would, maybe I don't know, maybe we should change the threshold instead of 100 down to 50. I don't know, just kind of thinking out loud here. And also requiring any services from the city, such as electricity.
Ms. Romero?
Mr. Stevens, as far as that is in regards, all of that is lined out on our special event application. I understand where you're coming from with the threshold. We met as a management team, and there was a lot of open-ended questions when we did lower that number. Now, again, this is only for the band shell. This isn't for the park. I don't know if that helps answer your question, but
There's no way to, there's no garage door on the band shell. I mean, it's still open. It's an open air band shell.
correct.
This is a public hearing item, so at this time I'll open it up for the public to comment either for or against this item. Ms. Flynn, do we have anybody in the hall? Okay. Mr. Anderson? Okay. I will close the public hearing portion of this ordinance, and we will bring it back for further discussion or a motion from the board.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 18/2020, an ordinance amending Monument Municipal Code sections 05.52.020, 05.52.040, and 05.52.050 regarding special event permits.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Romero, will you take roll, please?
Trustee Clark? Trustee LeKind?
Yes.
Trustee Romanello?
Yes.
Trustee Stevens?
No.
Mayor Wilson?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
That motion passes 4-2. Item 5E, an ordinance number 19/2020, an ordinance repealing Chapter 3.01 municipal contracts from the town of Monument. Ms. Holmes.
Good evening, Mayor and trustees. Before you tonight, you have an ordinance which will be followed by a resolution regarding a repeal of the current purchasing policy in section 3.08 titled Municipal Contract of the Town Code, and a resolution to implement a new purchasing policy for the town outside of the town code. Criteria set in the code is outdated and does not address the current needs of the town in regards to purchasing materials and services and defining contracting policies. Town staff has worked extensively to develop and review the policy you have before you. We reviewed purchasing policies from other towns and cities in Colorado and have used them as reference points in creating this new document. Most policies reviewed from other municipalities had their purchasing policies outside of the code. This allows for easier distribution when requested by outside entities, and there's no 30-day waiting period in the future if changes are made and approved by the board in order to implement them. We've increased the purchasing policy and approval limits to levels more consistent with other municipalities in Colorado. All policies that we received from other governments had a board approval threshold set at a minimum of $25,000, and many were significantly higher. One of the largest concerns that we as staff have with the current criteria in the code is the delay in processing payments to vendors in a timely manner. Most invoices typically have a due date 15 to 30 days following the invoice date. It's usually a few days before you receive the invoice, and then it's directed to the proper department, reviewed, approved, and returned to us in the finance department, where then we determine whether the check needs to go to the Board of Trustees for approval, which under the current policy is anything $5,000 and over. We then wait for the next board meeting for approval and work to process the payments. Oftentimes, we run into situations of paying late and trying to work with vendors to remove late payments and fees due to this extended process. This can take a lot of staff time, and it does not guarantee that those late fees are always removed. So under the proposed new purchasing policy, any payments made under the board approval threshold or payments that are related to contracts that the board has already previously approved would not be resubmitted to the board for payment approval. There's also a few exceptions listed in the policy for things like intergovernmental agreements that have already been approved, regardless of what dollar amounts those are, meaning an example would be TriView. We owe them that money. It's part of the intergovernmental agreement, so it would be paid to them when we receive it rather than waiting the time frame in order to make those payments. Our financial reports will continue to include a complete list of checks written during any given time frame that the board can review and request additional information on whenever necessary. We do have one small update to the policy that got missed when the agenda was distributed to you. For those of you listening remotely, I emailed a copy of this change to you. I believe Andy handed out the copies to those of you that are sitting here in the boardroom. It's the highlighted portion in the one-page attachment to the email that was sent out. In Table A, the 5,000 to 24,999 line under the process required column should read comparative pricing for 5,000 through 14,999 and competitive for 15,000 plus or 15,000 up to the next threshold. Staff respectfully requests that the Board of Trustees move forward with the repealing of Section 3.08 of the Town Code and approving the resolution for the new purchasing policy.
Okay. Questions from the board? Okay, this is a public hearing item, so I will open it up for the public to comment for or against this item. Do we have anybody in person from the public? No, we don't. Do we have anybody online from the public? Okay. I will go ahead and close the public hearing portion and bring it back for further discussion or comment. I know this is something town staff has needed for a long time, and it has kind of tied your hands on certain, being able to complete certain tasks. So, other questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, is this going to be two votes? One is the ordinance repeal and the second one is the resolution adoption?
They are going to be separate items because the ordinance repeal has to be a public hearing.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I move to approve ordinance number 19/2020, an ordinance repealing chapter 3.08 municipal contracts in the town's code.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Romero?
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott,
Yes.
Trustee Romanello,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson,
Yes.
Trustee Stevens,
Yes.
Trustee LeKind,
Yes.
Trustee Clark.
Yes.
That motion passes 6-0. That takes us to resolutions. Resolution 6A, resolution number 30/2020, a resolution adopting a contract and purchasing policy. Ms. Holmes.
I think I pretty much covered everything. Nothing else to add, although I would like to reiterate to recommend approving the resolution with that change that was sent out.
And you're referring to the change of comparative 5,000 to 1499 and competitive over 15,000?
Correct. Currently under the town's code, the competitive is already at 15,000. So that would actually, if that piece wasn't in there with the split between the two, we would actually be further inhibiting town staff to need competitive bids over 5,000
Okay.
rather than having it at that 15,000 level.
Okay. Question or additional questions or comments on this item?
Yeah, it says this is a resolution adopting a contract. Who are we contracting with?
It's a contract and purchasing policy.
Oh, misread it. Okay.
There are no other questions from the board. We'll look for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 30-2020, a resolution adopting a contract and purchasing policy for the town of Monument.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Romero.
Trustee Clark. Trustee LeKind.
Yeah.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Trustee Stevens.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott.
Yes.
Trustee Romanello.
Yes.
Trustee Clark. Trustee Clark.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. That motion passes 6-0. Item number 6B, a resolution number 31-2020. A resolution directing that a question be placed on the November 3rd ballot for the regular municipal election. Mr. Foreman.
Mayor and board, we had a workshop concerning this item where Laura Hogan made a presentation to the board. The presentation was included in the packet for all to see. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have on this resolution.
During the board workshop, this item seemed to go fairly smoothly. Are there any additional questions from the board?
Yeah, what was the percentage that we decided to put in here? I'm just trying to look through the thing.
Trustee Stevens, this is to move the regular
this
municipal.
is the other one.
Yes.
Gotcha. Sorry.
No worries. Okay, if there's no additional questions, I will look for a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 31-2020, a resolution directing that a question be placed on the November 3rd, 2020 ballot to ask whether Monument electors want to move the regular municipal elections for the town of Monument from April to November in even numbered years.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Romero.
Trustee Romanello.
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Trustee LeKind.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott.
Yes.
Trustee Stevens.
Yes.
Trustee Clark. Trustee Clark.
Yes. Can you hear
That
me?
motion passes 6-0. Item number 6C, resolution number 2520, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Monument referring a ballot issue to registered electors in the November 3rd election regarding increasing the local sales tax from 3% to 3.25 exclusively for Monument Police. Mr. Foreman.
Sorry. Mayor and board, once again, we had a workshop on this item, on this resolution 25-2020. We also have the police chief and his staff here to answer any questions that you have further than what we answered in the workshop. We also presented several items to you in the board packet to help answer any of those questions that we anticipated. So be glad to answer any questions that you have at this time.
I had some troubles with my board packet. Was there any new information in the police presentation?
So we sent out the 0.25 template based on an Excel spreadsheet of what the capital and personnel costs would be moved to. I know that there was some question during the workshop if 0.25 was enough. So I prepared another template today to show what 0.50 would look like, to just kind of give the you, Mayor, and the board an optic as far as 2.5 to 5.0, and if you wanted to massage it in between or beyond that. So Mr. Drew has the different templates. He's got the template for 0.25 on a PowerPoint as well as a 0.50 in case there's any flexibility that you're looking at in between. And I could give you an overview of what that may look like if there's any questions.
So that's just on the memorandum, correct? Right.
The Ranger.
Mr. Mayor, you were talking about the table that does show from 25 basis points to 50 basis points, correct?
Right.
Okay.
I was a little confused with, so there's nothing different in the presentation.
The only thing different would be if you did not go with the 0.25, Mr. Mayor, and anybody had questions beyond that, I could show the difference to a 0.50 on tonight's presentation. I was pretty confident that we were asking for the 0.25, but I know that a couple of you at least had questions about extending it beyond that.
I'm having a hard time hearing the chief.
Is this better?
Is your mic on?
Yes, sir.
Testing.
Yes, now we can hear you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No. Questions from the board? Go ahead.
I have a comment I'd like to make. After we discussed this topic at the working session, I put out a poll to the Village Center at Woodmore, which consists of 300 residents, of which 150 or so saw a poll to get the pulse of what the community felt like would be, how it would be received from a tax increase. I sent the results of that poll to the chief and Mike Foreman and Mayor. The majority of the people spoke wanted to see an increase in the town sales tax to 3.5%. Quite a few were okay with 3.25%, and we had a couple people wanted to leave it alone, and one person wanted to decrease the sales tax. So, being that my neighbors were overwhelmingly in favor of 3.5%, I have to agree with that, and would like to see that we amend the resolution to reflect a higher than 3.25%.
Do you have are you opening up for discussion, or are you asking for a particular percentage?
I'm opening to discuss that we raise it above 3.25%.
Okay.
I to hitchhike on that. I actually went door knocking, and I think it's something we should all do. It was very enlightening, and I asked people about this, and I said, "This is what we need. This is the situation." And I asked them what they thought they'd be okay with, but more importantly, I asked them what they thought would pass, because there's two things that we need to really understand here. Okay, one is there's a need, and two is it's got to pass. You could ask for 70 basis points if that's what you felt the budget wants. But if it doesn't pass, guess what? You get nothing, zero. Okay. So this has got to be reflective of a need and palatable on a ballot. That's the balance here. Coincidentally, to Mr. LeKind's research, everybody I talked to was good with half a cent. Everybody. Some thought it might be a little bit more palatable. Voting, they personally were okay with half a cent, but they thought it might be more palatable slightly below that, like maybe 40 basis points. Okay. I only had one person that was above that, and interestingly enough, it was a police officer, not locally, but from another, from a different district that lived in Jackson Creek, and he's like, yeah, you know, I'd go up to another penny. He goes, that's just me. He goes, but he goes, I know some of the people in your area, and I know the need. Anyway, I really think that I would support 40 basis points up to half a cent. And I just, and my decision there, and to the discussion point, would be, again, I think it's much more important as to which one would pass rather than the 1.12 million versus the 1.4 million. Because again, if it doesn't pass, you get bupkissed, right? So that's what I'd like to get some feedback from everybody else.
I have a couple questions. So Trustee LeKind, how many responses did you get?
It was under 50, but somewhere between 40 and 50. And mind you, this I had there was well over 150 views of the post, but not everybody posted or clicked on one of the responses. I gave them 5 choices to select from, and there were several comments specifically around our neighborhood and a recent string of some crimes that had gone on, and they're being dealt with separately. But the point is that they want to make sure that the police department is funded appropriately so that they can make sure that we have a deterrent and an investigative ability.
And how many do you think responded with wanting a 0.50% increase?
Well, I know for a fact it was 36, but I was included in that poll.
Okay. How about you, Trustee Romanello?
I knocked on about 8 doors in Jackson Creek. I just did it random. I just drove around, did that. I really wish I would have thought of it sooner and done more, but people were
Can't hear Trustee Romanello.
I probably did around 8 doors randomly around Jackson Creek. I wish I would have done more, thought of it sooner. And the greatest thing was the response of the people that I actually gave a dang about what they thought. And that's why I said I wish we all would do that just a little bit more often when it comes to this kind of stuff and really get a pulse on what's going on out there. It was very enlightening, but everybody was immediately a yes for it. And then it was just about the amount. I had nobody that said no to the increase.
I think it's great that you two took the time to do that. I definitely agree with an increase. Just looking at the math and what the return would be here financially, I don't think we should settle for 0.25. We've been basically kind of, scraping by for quite some time now, and I am a proponent of 0.50.
I'm having difficulty hearing everyone. Can whoever was speaking last speak up?
Sorry, Trustee Clark, would you like to make comment on this?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. I did a poll with over 3,000 people. Not one came back with a no. I asked for a penny or less. Please give me your opinion. Everyone was okay with a penny, and they said they would vote for it.
Okay. Trustee Stevens.
Yeah, I don't mind increasing a little bit more. I don't know if I could go to a penny. I think we're meeting the, what the chief has asked. I think we're meeting. I could go to 0.3 or something like that, and I'm comfortable with that. But I think we're meeting what the chief is asking for, and so that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Okay.
I don't think that a penny is electable. That's just my personal opinion. And I would like to know here, probably not from the officers, but if anybody just even in this room, and I hope there's citizens that will comment on this right now. I'd really like to hear that. But I'm sorry, there's not. I mean, I just, like maybe just Mr. Ritchie or Mr. Anderson, I mean, if you guys, just to get opinions, if you guys can just think of this as a citizen, get yourself out of the town head and go, what do you guys think would be electable? What do you think would be electable on mass? Because this would be for this November. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that's going to be a huge turnout, right? Because it's a presidential election, right? So, I mean, what do you think, honestly, is electable and get all the bias out of it? I mean, because I'll tell you honestly, if I was just a citizen and not involved in this, I wouldn't pass a penny. Just that it's just who I am. So I'm trying to multiply that times a lot of people. Okay, I would do a half a cent or less. That'd be passable. And I'm just thinking that based on hearing everybody, and I'm not saying that it's my way or the highway. I'm just thinking from an electability point of view and getting all the feedback. I'm thinking 40 basis points is a really good compromise and it's a safe pass. And that's just my feeling. And I'd like to get feedback here almost from everybody in the room, really. I mean, I'd just like to know what you guys think.
Can I just state something real quick?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't want to put that kind of pressure on my staff.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Those two,
I'm so sorry.
they're not involved.
Okay,
in
all right, never
I don't
mind.
want them to say.
I
I don't
okay.
want them to say no. We want 10% instead. So,
Okay,
and then pit them against the police
All
department.
right, great.
So
What's
if
your
we could-
opinion?
I've been meeting with the police department, and hey, I'm supposed to be in this position and support them, and I do. I think that we've run through all the numbers. We've met with board members and everything like that. And let me tell you, the police department has been run on very little for a long time. And I think we have the right people in the right positions to lead this police department. And I think if you just give them the opportunity, if you give them the resources, you will see a great police department represent this town. And you'll see the citizens of Monument respond back and say, thank you.
Mr. Foreman.
I didn't feel like you answered my question.
Do what?
Question. I was out in response in what I'm saying about the numbers and electability.
Right.
And what I'm asking your opinion on what I'm saying and what you think is electable so that that it doesn't come back not voted in.
I like even numbers. Let me tell you that. I like even numbers. I think they're electable. 50 to me is electable. I think it is. I think I've been talking to some of the board members and I think they support that. I've talked to, like you have, I've talked to citizens, I've talked to business owners, and I think some of the business owners that I've talked to have said, we support that. We support the police. We support, I don't think they're going to, I agree with you. I don't think they're going to support a penny, but I think they would support 50 cents.
Mr. Foreman, you just mentioned that the police department has been running on a thin line for a long time.
Yes, sir.
But yet this has been going on for a month and we have gotten no comparative budgets, no comparative training time, no comparative overtime. What do we have to say that, yes, this is the amount they should be getting? Do we have any other, is there any other police budgets in the state of Colorado?
There are. I'd be glad to provide that to you if you want it. Nobody's instructed or asked that from me.
You know, I asked that the first time, why we didn't have any comparative information to see where we should be to similar entities, or even where we are when we're at full growth, and nothing. Don't you? I think that'd be great to be able to go to our citizens and say, hey, towns of our equivalents have spend this much, this much less on overtime than we do. Towns of this size or departments of this size have budgets around this area. Those are great talking points for board members and staff. And like I said, it's been a month now and we haven't seen any of that. And you're just telling us, hey, I'm just telling you that they're short.
Well,
we need more money.
I believe when I got here, I came to the board and I talked to the board about having one officer in the street. That to me is underfunded.
You also said that we don't do that anymore.
Well, we don't. We only have two, plus sometimes we have a supervisor. So now I don't think that's enough. I don't think having two officers and a supervisor in the street is sometimes a supervisor in the street is enough.
So do you have a point of where we should be?
I think we've proved that to you in the past workshop that we have, and we can bring that out. We can give it to you again. We can give you the entire workshop again if that's what you need. We can add to it if that's what you need. I just need to know what you need, and we'll provide you any information you need. Our job.
What do you mean? I've already said
I
from the
don't
beginning.
remember you asking.
We talked
specific
about this with
questions
training.
as the board directing me to give you that information.
Okay.
What's the deadline for passing this resolution for getting on the ballot?
September 3rd. Next meeting is September 8th. Unless you want to have a special meeting.
Can I make a comment, please?
Go ahead.
I, again, polled over 3,000 people. Everyone wants more police protection. In these uncertain times, I received so many texts from people saying they would, without a shadow of a doubt, pass that on a ballot question for up to a penny. So a half a penny, 3/4 of a penny, I think that they would be very open to it. They want more protection. They don't feel safe right now, especially with the events that are happening in other counties like Mesa County, where they had an Antifa attack 4 board meetings in a row and had to ask the bikers for Trump to come and help because they didn't have enough police protection. People are very concerned about the times we are living in right now. They are afraid, and some are rightfully so afraid, and some are not. Some might be, it's the same thing for COVID. Some people are over the top, some people are not. But the overwhelming response that I received was yes, we want to increase, we want the police funded, we need more police, and we want to make sure that they can protect us to the nth degree. And a penny was not obnoxious to them. I even came back and asked again, what do you think of 1 penny? Is 1 penny okay? Half a penny? What do you think? They all said a penny was fine and they would vote for it. That was over 3,000 people. I just want to reinforce that this is a specific time in history that Monument has never faced before, and much of the state has, and much of the nation has not faced before. And the people are wanting safety and security. So I would just like to have you all think about that and encourage you to consider that in your final decisions. Thank you.
So am I under the understanding that the entire board is good with the wording of the ballot issue? It is only the actual percentage that we are working on. Trustee LeKind?
That's correct. Only the percentage.
Trustee Clark? Trustee Stevens?
Yeah, I'm good with the language.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott?
I'm fine with the language.
Trustee Romanello?
Correct.
Okay.
And I'm fine with the language.
Okay. Trustee Romanello, what is your percentage suggestion?
I think from a round number point of view, I think the half a cent, the 50 cents.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Elliott?
I think this is probably the one time that we're going to be doing this for a long time. I'd like to go with the 0.50.
Okay. Trustee Stevens?
Well, I'm more on the low side. I'd go with 0.4, but I could live with 0.5.
Trustee LeKind?
0.5.
Trustee Clark?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. According to my pro forma analysis, 0.89 would be the lowest I would like to go. but in a spirit of cooperation with the board, I will join the consensus at 0.50.
Okay. Seeing 0.50 being the consensus and with the resolution before us, can I have a motion to modify the resolution?
I move to modify resolution number 25-2020, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Monument, Colorado, referring a ballot issue to the registered electors of the Town of Monument at the November 3rd, 2020 general election regarding an increase in local sales and use tax from 3% to 3.5% as an amendment to exclusively fund monument police services, monument police programs, and monument police facilities.
Second.
I'm sorry, did you?
Did I not say it right?
Well, I think, if I might jump in, Mayor, I believe the resolution title has been appropriately amended. I would also indicate that the fifth whereas paragraph should be amended to state, whereas it is proper to submit to town voters a ballot issue to allow the voters to determine whether they desire to provide dedicated funding for the exclusive use of the Town of Monument Police Services, Town of Monument Police Programs, and Town of Monument Police facilities identified above through a proposed 0.5% increase to the town sales and use tax. And then you will also need to amend the ballot issue. That would say ballot issues shall Town of Monument sales and use taxes be increased $1.4 million in 2021, first full fiscal year dollar increase, and by whatever additional amounts are raised annually and thereafter by the imposition of an additional sales and use tax of 0.50%, increasing the town sales tax and use tax from 3% to 3.5% for the purpose of providing dedicated funding, and so on.
Can we just do an amendment to replace all existing 3.25 percentages with 3.50 percentages?
Yes. Additionally, well, with the language that I just read to you, that would be all the amendment that was necessary. So with percentages, yes, the ballot issue would need to be changed to indicate the amount.
1.4 million instead of 700,000.
Instead of 700,000. That is correct. That's a table
And then
requirement.
do we need to do, in this case, although it's a resolution, do we need to do the amendment first with roll call approval and then the approval of the amended?
Yes.
Okay. So
Do you want me, so, oh, sorry.
Yes.
So should I state that I move to amend resolution 25-2020? Do I need to read the whole thing again?
No, just what you're amending.
I want to amend it that anywhere in the language it is changed from 3.25 to 3.5%, and that the dollar amount raised be changed from $700,000 to $1.4 million. Is there anything else I need to add, Mr. Ritchie?
I do not believe so. Thank you.
Do we have a second for that motion to amend?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Romero?
Trustee Romanello,
Yes.
Trustee LaKind,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson,
Yes.
Trustee Stevens,
Yes.
Trustee Clark, Trustee Clark,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott.
Yes.
That motion passes 6-0. Now, do I have a motion to approve the amended resolution?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the amended resolution as proposed, 25-2020.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Romero?
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott,
Yes.
Trustee Clark,
Yes. Can you hear me?
That was a yes, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Wilson,
Yes.
Trustee Stevens,
Yes.
Trustee LeKind,
Yes.
Trustee Romanello,
Yes.
That motion passes 6-0.
Mayor, if I could, if you'll send me a list of the questions, I think that would help us all prepare for the election. So we'll get that information put together for you, and so that we can all prepare for the election.
Yes, I will sit down with you. I'm not going to take special time to. I'm sorry, that sounds a little. I mean, you should know how you compare to other similar municipalities or entities, correct?
Yes, I just want to make sure I cover everything that you want on there so that I don't miss anything.
I will send you my list of questions, and I hope that in the future we can get better reporting and updates as far as how the department's doing in comparison to our surrounding areas even.
We can. I think if this passes, that will help us with a lot of our report writing and a lot of our reporting to the board.
And I think also to follow up on what you're saying, what we talked about last time, that we should have a really good visual list of equipment renewing and shelf life, and look at like the next 7 years of, 3 years from now, these are dying, 3 more years, these are dying, et cetera, et cetera.
Definitely.
Okay, moving on. Public comments. We have nobody in person to make public comments. Do we have anyone online? Okay. Will you please continue to monitor that, and we will move forward. Board authorization items. Water workshop on August 24th. Mr. Foreman?
Yes, sir. I'd like to have Tom do a water workshop on August 24th to go over all the planned projects that we have for 2021 through probably 2025. And then also we would have our financial advisor be there for that date so that we could get a bond package put together so that we possibly could have a bond sale prior to the election.
Okay. Are you looking at this to be a 5 o'clock workshop, 6 o'clock?
Probably, I think we could get it done from 5:30 to 6:30.
Okay. How is the board on August 24th, 5:30 to 6:30? Trustee Stevens?
Yeah, I'm good.
Trustee Clark?
I'm good.
Trustee LeKind?
I'm good.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott?
That works.
Trustee Romanello?
Not good for me, but based on the response, please press on.
Okay. Mr. Foreman, you have your direction.
Thank you.
Will you please have meeting invites sent out for that?
I will.
Okay. Definitely. Also, the next meeting being Tuesday, the next regular meeting being Tuesday, September 8th. Trustee Clark had mentioned putting on a broadband discussion. Ms. Romero, will you make sure that gets on the agenda for that date? Does that work for you, Trustee Clark?
It does. Thank you, Mayor Wilson. And I just wanted to add just a couple of comments about that. Or would you prefer I do that at the actual meeting where we discuss it?
I would prefer at that meeting, but that is up to the board.
I'm fine with waiting till then. Thank you.
Okay. Any other board authorization items? Okay. Okay. Yes, please do. And please let me know. We will continue on until you give me the signal that she's connected. Town manager reports. Did we have any questions from the board in regards to the town manager report? Okay. Board of trustee comments? I do think, as far as board of trustee comments, one for myself, I do think that this police department sales tax is a much needed item, and I think it's been needed for quite a while. So I'm glad to see this go on this year's ballot. Is Ms. Hayes up yet? Okay. If there are no other Board of Trustee comments, Mayor Pro Tem Elliott, would you make a motion for executive session?
Yes. I move to go into executive session pursuant to CRS 24-6-4024E, developing strategy for negotiations, instructing negotiators, and determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations regarding Monument Sanitation District. I further move to, at the end of the meeting, adjourn the board meeting at the conclusion of the executive session.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Romero.
Trustee Clark,
Yes.
Trustee Romanello,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott,
Yes.
Trustee Stevens,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson,
Yes.
Trustee LeKind.
Yes.
Okay, on that note, we will take a 5-minute recess and reconvene in private